a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance.
What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday to you. If it is the first or third Tuesday of the month, you know what that means. It's an all new episode of My Way, conversations with entrepreneurs doing business outside the box. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and today we are diving headfirst into the world of innovative business strategies and sales mastery. We have a true luminary in the sales arena gracing our virtual stage tonight, though this is not the only kind of stages he has graced before. He's not just a sales coach, but a trailblazer who has spent nearly 5 decades revolutionizing how we approach sales. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your virtual hands together for the incredible Jeff Goldberg. Welcome to My Way, Jeff. It's so good to have you here tonight. Super excited to have this conversation with you.
It's great to be here, although I was really enjoying the music. I was here.
It's a whole vibe here. I can't tell you how many people are like, I was having a dance party backstage. I was not prepared.
I absolutely was. And my dog, who I just kicked out of the room, was staring at me. I said, get out. If I can't dance like nobody's watching, then I don't want
to. That's it. Well, I'm super excited to have you here tonight, Jeff, because probably about every few months or so, we tend to have a sales conversation on this show. And I think that's incredible. And it's suiting because the business of sales is not going anywhere. Am I right?
Well, I think that a lot of people are concerned that it's going somewhere because of AI. And I get this question pretty regularly, Jeff, are we going to have a job in 2 years? I believe yes. So no, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. I am using and teaching people how to use AI when they're selling, but I don't think AI is going to replace the personal touch and the relationship that's necessary to really sell properly.
Right. I agree with you 100%. And I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more tonight as well, because AI is definitely, I think, the top of everybody's mind when it comes to not just sales, but business in general. I think we're all wondering what's going to be happening coming up. So we'll get into that as well. I want to welcome everybody who's joining us this evening live. And also, if you're on the replay, I would love for you to comment down below. Let us know where you're joining from. And also, as we go throughout the show, let us know if you have any questions for Jeff or any comments about what we're discussing as well. As I mentioned in your introduction, Jeff, you have been in sales for nearly 5 decades. Could you share with us a little bit about your journey, maybe a pivotal moment or experience that ignited your passion for sales?
Great question. So I'll have to start at the beginning and tell you that my father, my stepfather, and my two grandfathers were all career salespeople. And none of them ever made a penny in sales. And I swore under no circumstances will I ever go into sales. In fact, in high school, I was doing very poorly in geometry, and my guidance counselor suggested that maybe I should try accounting because maybe it would be easier. And I did, and it was. It made perfect sense. X and Y did not make sense to me, but 1 + 1 = 2 made perfect sense.
Right.
So after I took that course, she said, you should be an accountant. Well, I had zero direction in life, so I said, okay, I'm going to be an accountant. And she suggested I go to Baruch College, which is in New York City, in an office building. What I discovered there was I now had to take a whole year of no credit geometry because I never passed it in high school. And college accounting was back to formulas, which didn't make sense to me. So I realized fairly quickly this career was not going to work out. And I took a part-time job at a furniture store a block away, doing paperwork and ordering and customer service and stuff like that. One day, one of the salespeople did not show up. He was sick. And the boss said to me, Jeff, go sell those people. There were some people in the showroom that wanted to be shown around. I said to him, I don't know how to sell. I'm your customer service guy. I place orders. Do payroll. I don't know how to sell. And he handed me a legal pad and a pen. It was a full-size legal pad. He literally went like this, follow them around and smile a lot. Write down what they want. Come back to me. I'll give you the prices. That's selling. And 48 years later, I'm not only still selling, but I'm teaching other people how to sell. I think a pivotal moment was probably when I went to work for, and I'm betting that most of your audience is too young to remember this, went to work for Encyclopedia Britannica. Yes, they were real live books. And Britannica happened to have an incredible training program. Not necessarily sales training, but how to sell Britannica. And it was really just a series of videotapes that were each an hour long. And you'd go into a room and the manager would come and he'd put in a tape, come back an hour later. What do you think of that one? Here's another one. I did that for 2 weeks. And the brilliance of this was, at the time, I felt I'm too stupid. I don't know a damn thing about selling. So I'm just going to do exactly what they tell me to do. And that's what I did. And I was incredibly successful very quickly, just following the rules. So that was really an eye opener that there are rules in sales, just like in most of life, that if you follow them, you will most likely be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting that you're talking about rules, because the concept of this show is about doing business outside of the box, doing things new and different, doing things that other people aren't doing. But I think you're right in that there are those tried and true things that you can take from, like, for my example, my husband, by the way, is in the audience out there tonight. Hey, and he's been in sales for many, many years, and like different companies he's worked for have offered different sales trainings, but some of those very basic things that have been a part of each of those trainings, while it may be about a specific product, it ties in to every other sales job that he does.
Yeah. One of the things I think you said was that I was a revolutionary in the world of sales. Sorry, but you lied to your audience. I love the title and I love the thought of that. But the fact is that all I've ever done is take what other people have taught me, distilled it, and put it into what I like to do. And that's what I'm doing. I haven't really revolutionized anything. In fact, when I work with salespeople in sales organizations on a one-to-one or a group basis, all I'm doing is teaching them the fundamentals, the building blocks of sales, which if you do them too, you too will be successful. And by the way, I read just about every book that comes out. I go to seminars still, even though I've been doing this a long, long time. But I haven't seen anything that's come out that's new recently that I said, oh, I got to do that. Actually, that may be a bit of a stretch. A book came out about, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. It's one of the best sales books I've read in the last 20 years. And I happen to know the author. I didn't know when I was working with him that he was that smart, but it's called The Transparency Sale. And that's slightly revolutionary in that often salespeople will say and do things that maybe bend the truth a little, or they'll mislead people, and that gives us all a bad name. And I certainly don't recommend that at all. But he's in favor of being completely transparent, including telling people the warts. Here's what we're great at. Here's what we don't do so well. In a negotiation, here's what I'm looking for. What are you looking for? Instead of playing games. So that's slightly revolutionary. But other than that, all I do is bring people back to the basics.
I think when you include, even if something is the same concept, when you include and mesh in together who you are as a person and put your own spin on it, the fact that you are also a stand-up comedian, there are other things that you do in your life and make it who you are. I think that is revolutionary in itself, just to be yourself and be authentic. So we like to celebrate that here, even if you don't think that what you're doing is revolutionary. Um, here this evening, and we do have a lot of people that watch the show that are more spiritual kind of entrepreneurs, service-based entrepreneurs, and the idea of sales, it doesn't hit well, Jeff. It doesn't hit well with them. It doesn't feel good. It
Yep.
feels yucky because of some of those things that you talked about, with it being a certain way or having an idea in their head. What do you sort of say to those people who are just completely turned off to sales, but they kind of have to do it in their
Perfect.
business?
Perfect. So the first thing to understand is that most of them, I would bet, believe that their job when they're selling is to convince somebody of something or persuade them or talk them into something. It's absolutely not. That's what almost every sales trainer will tell you. You got to be persuasive. You got to talk people into things. Uh, it's just not your job when you're selling. Sales is a conversation or a series of conversations leading to help the other person choose to do business with you. I've been selling for 48 years, and one of the things I often say is, I'm so good at selling that people pay me fairly large amounts of money to teach them how to sell, but I don't talk anybody into anything. I don't think I'm good enough with all my experience and skill to talk anyone into anything that they don't want, don't need, or can't afford. And I wouldn't want to. Even if I had that ability, I wouldn't want to. All I want to do is have great conversations with people and have enough of them say, I got to have some of that, Jeff. I'm looking for what you've got. So all I think that people need to understand is, if you don't like selling, it's probably because you think of the old style. And no offense to anybody who sells used cars, but that's usually what we use. The used car salesperson, the person who will say anything. Perfect. Coffee is for closers. If you've watched Glenn Ross, it's the opposite of what you should be doing. Now, it's a great movie, by the way, if only for the first 10 minutes when Alec Baldwin is brilliant as the sales manager from Hell. But it's not about that. And look, Encyclopedia Britannica was, I don't want to say it was a high pressure close, but we knew for a fact, because of years and years of experience, that if people didn't buy the night that we sat down with them in their home, they were never going to buy. No matter what they told us at the end of the conversation, I need to think it over, call me tomorrow. My wife and I made a promise on our wedding day that we would never make a decision over $100 without sleeping on it. Now, Jeff, we already gave each other the secret wink, which means tomorrow when you come back, we're going to hand you a check, but we just can't do it today. When tomorrow I would show up, inevitably there was a note on the door that said, oh, sorry, death in the family, we'll get in touch with you. And I realized there was a relationship between thinking about buying encyclopedias and people dying. So, not really, but yeah, that's why people spiritual or not. I'm a very spiritual person. At least I like to believe I am.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with pushing people. All you have to do is have great conversations. Now, one of the keys is you've got to have enough of those, because not everybody's going to say yes. And that's where most salespeople, and I'm including anybody in your audience that has to sell as part of what they do as a salesperson. You've got to be speaking to enough people, because not everybody's going to say yes. Not everybody says yes to me. Now, I close an extraordinarily high amount of the people I first speak with, but not, and by the way, I should, because I'm an expert at this, but not everyone. So unless you're having enough conversations with enough qualified prospects, you're never going to do enough in sales.
Right. Now, do you feel like, obviously we have all of these different social media platforms now that people can get out there and share their message. Do you think that visibility is enough, or do you think that they really need to be having more of those one-on-one conversations?
Well, I don't know anybody who's going to buy without you having a conversation, unless you're selling like an online program, and your website does the marketing for you. But it really does boil down to that personal touch most of the time. I'm a big fan of social selling and social media. I get 30% of my business just by being on LinkedIn. And by the way, when I say I get business from LinkedIn, it's not me reaching out to people and saying, hey, want some sales training, or do you need a sales coach? There's none of that. it's simply me posting valuable content on a daily basis, twice a day, every day, well, 5 days a week. I'm posting valuable content that can help my audience do their job better. My audience, salespeople, sales managers, VPs of sales, CEOs, people like that. It's just giving away the information that I would charge them for if they hired me as their coach or trainer, because I know, kind of like a drug dealer, here, take a taste of this. Oh, you like it? Pay me money.
Yeah.
So people, I'm a big fan of making my life as easy as it possibly can be, given that life is not easy and sales is not easy. Now, it beats digging ditches in the hot sun. At least I assume it does, because I've never dug ditches in the hot sun. But I'm looking to make sales as easy as I possibly can. So what I like to do is I like to give away content so that people raise their hand and say, hey, I want to talk to you about training me or coaching me or whatever it is. Now, I teach people how to do outreach, like cold calling and email marketing, things like that. And I do those things too. Well, I don't cold call anymore. I've done enough of that in my life. I'd rather live in my car than ever have to cold call again.
Right.
That's an exaggeration, actually. I do it once a month just for a few minutes to make sure that what I'm teaching people is still working. But I want people to raise their hand and come to me and say, hey, can I talk to you about training me to sell better, manage better, whatever it is.
Right, right. I'm glad that you mentioned the consistency of posting on social media as well. And also more than just the buy my stuff, even for us on the Breakthrough Show Network back, a few years ago because I've always managed, the social media platforms myself, when we were just posting this is what you're going to like, this is who's coming up on the show. We didn't get a lot of traction from that. People would see it and move on. But when we started sharing clips and quotes and things like, and extras, as I called them, from the shows, then people were like, oh, that's what we're going to see. So now we're going to go watch. Go figure. Just the little movie poster, so to speak, didn't get them to push play.
Yeah, it's like when you go to the mall and you get to the food court and there's guys and gals standing over with plates, try this, try that. It's not because they want to give it away. It's because they go, oh, hopefully they taste my food and they want to come and buy it. Works for me.
Right. Absolutely.
I just walk around and just keep taking samples. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that.
There are some people that do that. I saw a post one time on social media. I think it's I don't know if it was Sam's or Costco or one of those big box stores used to do samples like one day a week where like there would be a sample in every aisle. And I saw people on my social media that were like flocking there just to like have a meal.
The truth is you can feed yourself that way. I'll tell you something that I find interesting. I'm very big on personal development. I've spent a lot of money and a lot of time in seminar rooms watching gurus. And we were in San Diego. Is that right? I think it was San Diego. Yeah. And I was at a James Arthur Ray event, which lasted, I think, 5 days. And at one point, all 300 of us in the room, they brought in barrels with beat up, dirty clothes. And they made us leave our clothes in the room. We had to change into these like kind of dirty clothes, and they put kind of makeup on us to make us look homeless. And then they took us to a mall, an outdoor mall. And the job was see who can do the best after, I think, 3 hours. So I just kind of wandered around. Like, not only was I homeless, but I'm kind of drunk. I'm not really drunk, but I'm pretending. And I was just walking a place. I'm really hungry, man. Is there any way you can give me something? People gave me water. People gave me food. It's amazing what you can do when you really put your intention to it.
That is a riot. I'm just picturing it in my head right now, Jeff. I need a moment.
It's crazy. I was walking around. I think there was a Macy's there, and I was just walking around the men's department looking at stuff. There were people following me, like guards and stuff, because they made us look homeless. Here's this homeless guy walking through. Maybe it was Bloomingdale's, whatever it was. But yeah.
Right. I mean, I think that would probably, there's so many people that I know that have to sell things that are just afraid to just ask for the sale, that are afraid to, and so, I mean, that's a lesson right there.
100%. The number one reason that salespeople fail is they never say the words, will you buy from me? Will you do business with me? In whatever words you're going to say it. I teach a particular way, but in whatever words. The second one is that they don't speak to enough prospects. But the first is you've got to ask. And my advice is when you're asking people to buy from you, you have to understand that it's an invitation. It's an invitation to buy from you. Now, the thing about an invitation, if it's a real invitation, is you're happy when people say yes, And you're not thrilled when people say no, but it's part of the deal. So if I was having a party this Saturday, which I'm not, but if I was, and I said, hey, Jessica, I live by the beach. Come on over, bring your husband, bring the kids. We're going to have a great time. We'll go to the beach. We'll have cocktails. We'll go swimming. We'll come back. We'll have some great meals. I'm going to have a lot of great people. Would you like to come? If you said yes, I'd be, woohoo, Jessica and her family's coming over. And if you said, I can't make it, I go, oh, sorry to hear that, but maybe next time.
Right.
I'm not going to sit and cry about it. I'm not going to whine, because I'm going to make sure I'm inviting enough people that there's still going to be a great party, whether Jessica shows up or not. Obviously, it's better if you show up, but
because I matter, Jeff. If I'm not there,
Jessica's not coming. The party's off.
No, I'm glad that you bring this up, though, because in my experience, especially when I was younger, so I had a little blip in time, which we briefly mentioned on this show before, where I was a telemarketer. Listen, I was top in my office for a while. I did really, really well, but it was hard for me when those no's came. And the reason why I figured out for me is because, I put so much of myself into what I'm doing that when I hear a no, I automatically feel like it must be me. So, something like I took it at that time very, very personally. And so it has taken a lot for me to kind of get over that sting. Do you have any recommendations for people that experience that massive disappointment when they get the no?
Of course I do. And if I didn't, I'd make one up. So the first thing to understand is I have two favorite words in sales. Yes is my very favorite word. No is my second favorite word. And if yes is here, no is right there. I mean, it's right below it. Everything else is way down here. I need to think it over. I need to talk to my husband or wife. I need to, whatever. Everything else sucks. And that's a technical sales training word. It sucks. Yes and no are almost equally good to me, because I'm constantly speaking with enough people so that if you say no, it's not the end of the world to me.
Right.
It's okay. I understand, first of all, that no is okay. And second of all, no just means no for now. You may become my customer later on. I've had clients come to me 5 years after I first met them. And not clients, but prospects come to me 5 years after I first met them and decided to do business with me.
Right.
Because I'm constantly planting seeds. Now, you said something important. You used to take it personally. And once again, I'm going to go against almost every sales trainer who says, you can't take it personally.
Right.
Who are they saying no to? They are saying no to you. It is personal. But the thing is, you can't let it kill you. It's like, okay, this person said no. I really hope that they would do business with me. They buy my whatever the thing or the product or service is, but they're not. But the good news is I've got 75 more people to talk to today, and I know some of them are going to buy.
Right.
Again, unless you're prospecting consistently and effectively and consistently speaking with new prospects, you can't do that. Every one is going to count. And by the way, if you negotiate, which I don't, I teach other people how to do it. But when I give my fee, that's it. I don't drop it a penny. But if you're going to negotiate, if you only have one prospect that you're talking to, you're not going to negotiate effectively because you need the deal too badly. I often get asked a lot of questions by the type of people that bring me in to do training for them. Presidents, CEOs, vice presidents, senior vice presidents, executive vice presidents of sales. And they ask me lots of questions because as an outside consultant, they know I'm not going to blow smoke up their rear end. I have no vested interest in leaning them one way or the other. I'm always going to answer them honestly. I will often exaggerate a story, Jessica, to make a point, but there's no exaggeration here. 50% of the time, no less than 50%, the questions that I get asked by presidents, CEOs, and VPs of sales, about how to increase sales, the answer is tell your lazy ass salespeople to get more appointments with decision makers.
Ooh.
Tell them to get off their lazy butt and go meet more people. I don't want to see salespeople in the office. They need to be out talking to prospects. And if they're in the office, they better be prospecting. Sales is, I mentioned to you before we went on the air that my oldest daughter just graduated from college. She graduated from the University of Virginia, an amazing school, with a degree in aerospace engineering. She's literally a rocket scientist. By the way, she loves getting into arguments with people, hoping that they'll say, what are you, a rocket scientist? Yes,
I am.
As a matter of fact. But you don't need to be a rocket scientist to be in sales. In fact, I often advise people, you only need half a brain.
Yeah.
If you got half a brain, I can help you sell more effectively. What I can't do is I can't teach you how to want to succeed. I can't teach you how to be committed to making a lot of money. I can't teach
Absolutely.
you to be honest. I can't teach you to be friendly. Some things you have to just have those on your own. But if you've got a few things, I can teach anybody how to sell, or anybody who's already selling how to do it better.
Right, right. Well, that's what I find that's really interesting with people that are incredibly good at sales. Like you were mentioning before, they don't really have anything that's different per se in their technique and what they're doing. It's the people that are successful, they have a drive. They want it really bad. They're getting up and they're making those phone calls. And I love what you tell the CEOs, because my husband as a sales manager comes home all the time and he's like, I had to tell my salespeople to get off their behinds and make some phone calls. Like, and he does it. He does it as a manager because he's setting that example of this is what you need to be doing, because you're not going to get those yeses if you don't have a sea of no's to go through as well.
100%. So I not only coach salespeople, I coach sales managers like your husband. I mean, I'm sure he's fantastic. I'm sure there's nobody like him, but you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
And what I find very often, I don't know your husband, this is nothing against him, but the sales manager, used to be a salesperson and got promoted, but was never trained how to manage salespeople. B, they're now managing their friends because they were a salesperson yesterday. Now they're managing their friends. And C is they want to be loved. And sales management, here's what I found over the years. I've been in sales 48 years. 14 of those years were spent as a sales manager, as an employee of large companies. And then I do outsource sales management for the last 9 years in my gig here at Jeff Goldberg and Associates. By the way, you wouldn't believe how much I had to pay a guy to come up with that name. But it's not about having people love me. What I find is the people that work with me love me when I help them make a lot of money. But if I'm just a nice guy and just want to give them a pat on the back and say everything's going to be okay, which sometimes is appropriate, but often is not. Sometimes we all need a kick in the ass. And a good sales manager knows when to give them that pat on the back and when to hit them with what I call the velvet hammer. Sometimes everybody needs a hit in the head and a push from the back and say, look, what are you committed to? Are you committed to your life being easy? Or are you committed to serving a lot of people and making a lot of money for yourself and your family? For me, it always boils down to, I got to take care of my family, and I'm going to do that. And if that means I can't be a nice guy all the time, so be it. I don't need you to love me. The only thing I need you to do is respect me and listen to my advice. You do those two things, I'm going to help you make a lot of money. And by the way, it was always my same thing about raising children. So one of the differences between my now ex-wife and I was she wanted to be their best friend. And she lived in fear. And she used to tell me this, I don't ever want to hear any of our kids tell me, I hate you, mommy. Now, I've never heard I hate you from my kids, but it was never important to me that they loved me. And they do, and I adore them, by the way. And it was never important to me that they were my best friend. And by the way, they are my best friends in the world. There's no doubt about it. But none of that was important to me. The only thing that was important to me was that I helped them become the most magnificent individuals they could possibly be. And that meant sometimes giving them lessons that they didn't want to hear. I'd rather that they heard it from me than a police officer later on, or somebody who punches them out on the street or something like that. Because life is cruel. And if managers are not teaching their salespeople that lesson that you want, look, here's the thing. I don't care what it is you want in life. There's a price to pay for everything. Everything. There's nothing free. And if you think it's free, you're still paying a price somehow. So do you want to make a lot of money in sales? I can help you do it. But is it Philip? Philip can probably help you do it, but you're going to have to pay a price. You're going to have to make some calls and send some emails. And you may not. Here's one thing for sure. Sales is not a 9 to 5. You want a 9 to 5 job in sales, go work at McDonald's. They'll give you the headset. You can work in the drive-thru. Would you like fries with that? That's selling too. But you're never going to make 100, 200. I mean, the cool thing, I mean, there are many cool things about sales to me, but one of them is that a college dropout like me, because I did not stick it out. Once I found out I actually could sell, I left college after 2 years. A college dropout like me can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in sales. And it's an unlimited opportunity if you're with the right company and they have a great commission plan. So a guy like me can make more money than a lawyer, a doctor, almost any professional. I actually, I actually had a prospect one time who wanted me to train his team. And when I told him my hourly rate, he said, my lawyer doesn't charge me that much. I said, he would if he could teach your people how to sell. And by the way, you probably need a better lawyer.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
Probably
My
so.
coach, now she's not a sales coach, she's a transformational coach. She
Yeah.
charges $750 an hour. You know what? She's worth every penny. If she told me tomorrow it's $1,000 an hour, I'd pay her $1,000 an hour.
Yeah.
Why? Because she gets results.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's about. Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. A lot of different things, Jeff, over the last couple of conversations that we've had here. But like one of the things that I when you talked about with your kids and not wanting to, your priority was not being their friend. I think that a lot of it comes down to priorities that people have. You talked about the hours that people worked. You talked about, not wanting to be the kid's best friend. And do you think that people's priorities are maybe some of what holds them back in sales and how they prioritize things? Because I found that for myself.
Yes, absolutely. Priorities and mindset. So if your priority in sales is not to serve a lot of people and make a lot of money, then go do something else, because sales is not easy.
Right.
And you're going to get beat up on a daily basis because more people usually say no than yes. So if your priority, and I use this word purposely, serving people, your job in sales is to serve others. So if you don't want to serve people, you don't want to make a lot of money, go find something else to do.
Right.
If your mindset is sales sucks, people suck, which they often do, by the way. People often suck. Sales sucks. People suck. I'm a loser. I'm not going to make any money. You're never going to make any money in sales because your mindset is wrong. When I work with people on a one-to-one basis, 50% is skills training, 50% is mindset, because half of it is you got to have the right attitude. If you don't wake up every day, look, I don't want to sound altruistic. I love getting paid for what I do, but I truly love helping people. That's just part of who I am. And I know not everybody's that way, but I really do get a good feeling of when I give help to others, and I know it's going to help them feed their family, help their company grow, help them be successful. It feels great to me. I mean, I get calls and emails and texts. Hey, Jeff, I tried that thing you told me the other day. It worked. I closed the deal. I got a promotion it makes me feel good. So I truly love serving others. And that's my mindset when I'm selling. I'm here to serve you. And by the way, if I can't serve you, I will let you know. You won't have to tell me. I'll let you know before you even tell me. Yeah. Zig Ziglar, who was a famous motivational speaker, he also did sales training, which was horrible sales training, but his motivational stuff was brilliant. Zig was amazing. He would get down on one knee like a Baptist preacher and you pray to God. It was a real show every time. But Zig Ziglar used to say that the word sell, comes from the Swedish word selja, S-E-L-J-E, which he said means to serve. Now, I love that thought, except I'm the kind of nerd that I look that shit up. Yep. And selja in Swedish does not translate to serve, but I like the thought anyways. Your job is to go out and serve as many people as you can, and that's how you get paid. Yeah. In sales, we get paid by serving others, just like almost everybody else.
Right. I want you bringing that up brings me to a little bit of a hot button topic that I often like to talk about on this show. And that is what you touched briefly before about transparency in sales and honesty in sales and things like that. Those are typically words with sales that we don't see those words together a lot, because that's not the picture that people have of salespeople in general, or just the sales profession in general. Do you feel like with our social media and people selling online that has become more of a problem, the lack of transparency in sales, because people are behind their keyboards, they're behind their computer screens? Do you think it's more of a problem now, or are we just seeing it more?
I think we're just seeing it more. I think it's always been a problem, and it's why sales has a bad reputation, a bad name. I think you know that I have a Facebook group for salespeople called the Sales Pro Network. I think we've got about 1,300 members, something like that. And I formed the group to elevate the profession of sales, to get us a better reputation. It's for people who are committed to telling the truth and being transparent and really serving their clients. The old style of selling, the high pressure salesperson, there's a million movies that you could watch, which, you watch The Wolf of Wall Street, you watch Boiler Room, movies like that. It makes us look bad. And are there still some salespeople like that? absolutely 100%. But I think that today's salesperson is generally more honest, more upfront, and truly wants to help people do whatever they're trying to accomplish. Get a better body, learn something new, whatever it is, get into that new car. Actually, that might be a bad example. Car salesmen are not always the most wonderful.
You hear that, honey? You hear that?
Is Philip in the car business?
He is.
Oh, well, Philip. So I got to tell you this then. It is one of my very favorite things to do, to take people to buy a car, because I will torture car salespeople.
My husband tortures car salespeople, to be fair.
Well, look, I'm guessing and I'm hoping that he's one of those honest car salespeople that truly does the right thing for both his organization and the customer. So I'll make this a long story, hopefully very short. So let's see, my son is now 21. When he was 5, so do the math quickly, 16 years ago, I went to buy a Toyota 4Runner. I'd already been to 2 dealerships. I knew I was buying the 4Runner, just going in for a third price. I go into the dealership. I'm staring at the car with my son, and he likes it because there's a balloon attached to it. And the salesperson, who's, I don't know, probably 23 years old, something like that, walks over and says, "I see you're looking at the 4Runner." And I said, "What gave it away?" I'm already annoyed because he's being stupid. Yeah, "I see you're looking at the 4Runner. There's nothing better you could say to me than that." Anyways, I said, "Look, man, there's only 2 things I want to know. Is there an upgraded sound system that I can get? And if I step on the gas, does it go fast? Because I drive everything like it's a Lamborghini." And he said, "Let me show you the safety features." And he popped the hood and started explaining something called crumple zones to me. Now, to this day, I don't know what a crumple zone is. And I let him go on for about a minute. And then I said, "Excuse me, I don't know what a crumple zone is, and I don't care about it. All I care is, does it go fast, and is there a premium sound system?" He goes, yeah, I'm going to get to that. And he continued telling me about crumple zones. Veins weren't sticking out of my neck yet, but I was starting to get upset. And I said, "Look, man, that's the second time I've told you exactly what I want. Why won't you answer my question?" And he leaned in kind of like a conspirator, and he said, "Don't turn around, but there's a glass booth behind you. And in that glass booth, my manager is watching me. And if I don't explain the safety features of this car to you, I'm going to get in trouble." And I said, "How much trouble do you think you're going to get in when I walk out, which I'm about 30 seconds away from doing?" And he brilliantly said, "Let's go for a test drive." The car had pickup when I stepped on it, and there was a premium sound system I could get. But here's where it gets really good. Brings me back into the showroom. My son and I are sitting down at tables. He draws that square, that cross on the piece of paper, and he asks me the stupidest question he could possibly ask me, which was, "So, Mr. Goldberg, how much do you want to pay for this car today?" And I said, "Well, if that's the question you're asking me, I'd like you to pay me to buy the car." And he laughed. He laughed. "No, I can't do that. Really, how much do you want to pay for this car?" And I said, "No, really, if that's the question you're asking me, I really want you to pay for the car for me." And he looked at me like I was insane. He goes, "I can't do that." I said, "Then maybe you should ask me a better question." And he said, "What question should I ask?" I said, "I'm a sales trainer, but it's not my job to teach you how to sell me. Here's what I think you should do." Story's almost over, I promise. I said, "You and I both know that you and I are going to go back and forth a couple times. You're going to go talk to your manager. You're going to come back with a better price. I'm going to send you back. You're going to come back with an even better price. And then you're actually going to go get your manager, and he's going to close the deal. So here's what I want you to do. Go get your manager right now. I've got your, you can't see what I'm hitting my pocket right now. I literally stood up. I said, "I've got your money in my pocket right now. Go get your manager, and we'll do a deal." And he walked over, got his manager, and an hour later, I drove away with the car. And here's the best part. My son said to me, "Why were you so mean to that man, Daddy?" And I said, "Because that man was an idiot." Be smart. When the customer tells you what they want, don't tell them something else. I told him exactly what he needed to do to sell me. And here's my belief. If you ask the right questions, which is really the key to selling, it's not your presentation. If you ask the right questions and listen actively, which most salespeople can't do to save their lives, your prospect will tell you everything you need to know in order to help them choose to do business with you. So I'm betting that Philip is doing that kind of thing. He listens to his prospects, and I'm sure he trains his people to do that, trains them to be honest and transparent, and sit them down and close a deal. Nobody walks into a car. Well, Almost nobody walks into a car dealership because they don't want to buy a car.
Mm.
They're there for a reason. They came to you.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I will tell you a little secret. Well, I'm going to say a little secret in front of everybody that's watching right now too. But my husband may or may not have walked out of a job this morning because you know that little story you just told where the manager was sitting behind the glass watching and saying this is exactly what you have to do or you're in trouble, etc. That is what we have talked about here on the show as micromanaging. And when you don't let your managers do their job and you're complaining, it's a problem. So don't micromanage either while we're on this topic.
If you have to micromanage salespeople, you hired poorly.
Mm.
Hiring is an
Yep.
art, and it's not an easy one because look, especially hiring salespeople, they're
Yeah.
salespeople. They should be good at selling themselves. But
Yeah.
you can't interview salespeople the way you interview anybody else.
Right.
I don't care where a salesperson sees themselves in 5 years. I don't care what their spirit animal is, or if they can figure out how many manhole covers there are in San Francisco. Those are great questions if you want to work at Google. But for salespeople, I only care about one thing. How are you going to do the job? I've consulted with many companies about their interviewing practices and how to hire. I've sat in on so many interviews, and it's all I can do to go, oh my God,
Yeah.
you're not asking any of the right questions.
Yeah.
Here's something that's useful for anybody who's looking to hire salespeople. I always like hiring ex-athletes, college athletes, ex-athletes of any type. Why? Because I can't teach you to want to win. Athletes want to win. They're competitive. They hate losing and they love winning. That's who I want to work with. I met Bobby Nystrom once. Now, here's the thing. I'm not a sports person. Somebody actually had to explain to me who Bobby Nystrom is. Do you know who Bobby Nystrom was?
Nope.
He was a famous hockey player.
Okay. My husband actually might have known that answer, but not me.
He was known as Knuckles Nystrom because he would always throw off his gloves and get into fights. When I was introduced to him, I had no idea who he was. In fact, the guy who introduced us afterwards, he goes, "You were very cool about that." I said, "About what?" He goes, "I just introduced you to Bobby Nystrom and you were really cool." I said, "What do you mean? Was I not supposed to be cool?" He goes, "Don't you know who he is?" I'm like, "No." At any rate, Bobby Nystrom turned into a great salesperson. Was he a genius? I don't know. But he hated losing and he loved winning. That's the kind of thing you got to hire. I could train my sister how to sell, and she works in a drug rehab. She's actually an ex-drug user, and she now helps people get off drugs. I could teach her how to sell. She's never going to be a superstar, but I could certainly teach her how to sell.
Yeah.
It's simply a matter of doing the right thing for the prospect, listening actively, asking right questions, and asking them to buy.
Ask them to buy. It's groundbreaking information we're giving you here. We're here to,
Revolutionary.
It's so simple. But I think the reason why it's revolutionary is because so many of us overthink it. Honestly, Jeff, we really make it into a mountain out of a molehill. It's what we do, and then we don't get the sale because we're not even asking for it.
And we ask stupid questions. Now, I don't train retail. I've never done it. If Macy's approached me, I don't have a program for them, but here's one thing I can tell you for sure. The salespeople that I would train would never say, "How can I help you today?" I would ask this question: "What brought you into the store today?" Asking better questions gets you better answers. If you want to be great at sales, learn how to ask great questions. There are only 3 things that I think that you need to be a great salesperson: ask great questions, listen actively, tell great stories. And there's a particular type of story I teach salespeople to tell. That's all.
Yeah.
Again, not rocket scientists.
Yeah. Don't have to just put, it sounds like back what you were doing in the very start of things, which is putting 2 and 2 together, Jeff. It's what it sounds like.
It took me a long time to figure it out, but I did. Look, again, I read every book. I treated sales like a career instead of just a job that I was going to do. Once I discovered I had a lot of the qualities that if you're born with them, tend to make you more likely to be successful in sales. And by the way, if you don't have them, it doesn't mean that you can't be successful. I'm extroverted, more likely to succeed in sales if you're an extrovert, but I know lots of introverted people who are excellent at sales. I'm articulate. Now, if you can't string 2 words together, you're going to have a hard time, but you don't have to be a professional speaker to be good at sales. I'm honest. You do need to be honest as far as I'm concerned. I'm funny. I'm good at making people laugh. Not everybody is. So I had a bunch of the qualities that tend to make you good at sales. but I studied it. I treated it like I still read every book that comes out. Those are all sales books there.
Yeah.
I read every one that comes out. I listen to other trainers and coaches because I don't know everything. You never know when somebody's going to come up with something that, oh yeah, that's good. Social selling wasn't around 10 years ago, 12 years ago. LinkedIn changed everything. I consider LinkedIn to be the salesperson's best friend. If you're in sales and you're not using LinkedIn effectively, you're missing the boat.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of very simple, straightforward things you can do to be good at sales, and lying and cheating is not one of them.
You heard it here first, everybody. Maybe not first, but you heard it loud and clear. We're going to take a super quick break, and I want to come back and ask Jeff about if there's any correlation between the comedy and being on stage and doing sales as well. And then, of course, any final questions or comments that we have from you guys, and we'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere. Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com. Welcome back to My Way, conversations with entrepreneurs doing business outside the box. We're here tonight with sales expert Jeff Goldberg. This has been such an incredible conversation, so much fun with you. And you are fun, I think, because you have a lot of actual performing experience as well, which we don't always get in a salesperson. A lot of times, I'm going to be honest with you, it's a very dry conversation, and this has not been one of those. So thank you so much for that. But
before you ask your question, was that woman holding an owl?
No, a chicken. That's even better, right?
Right.
A live chicken on our morning show. It was fantastic.
Awesome. Love it.
I love it. But so do you have, like, how long have you been doing stand-up? I need to know. And is there any carryover between doing stand-up and being on the stage and sales?
Yeah. So I've been doing stand-up for 2 years. I tried it like 38 years ago twice and discovered that maybe I could make it, but I wanted to make money more, and very few people make money in comedy. So I gave it up, and I started 2 years ago. Well, there's a couple of things. One is it was actually sales that led me to comedy, because I often do full day training programs. And as fascinating as I think I am, it can get boring to listen to me drone on and on for 7 or 8 hours while you're sitting in a seminar room. And I've always used humor and laughter to keep people awake and involved. My coach, the rather expensive woman I told you about earlier, we were talking one day about self-sabotage, because in 20 years of doing this, there's been more than one occasion where I've said something over the line and gotten the beckoning finger from human resources later on. And, hey, Jeff, did you say this in front of our team today? Yeah, I know I shouldn't have. Don't worry, it'll never happen again. As it was coming out of my mouth, I knew I shouldn't. I promise it won't happen again. And she said, why don't you go do stand-up comedy? This was 2 years ago. And I said, Liz, I'm 66 years old. I'm not changing careers now. And she said, Jeff, they do it at night. Go do your day job, then go get on stage and do whatever the heck you want. Say anything. So I took a class, and 6 weeks later, I was in front of 230 people doing stand-up, and I haven't looked back yet. When we get off this, I'm getting in my car and driving. I have a gig tonight. I produce a show right here in Long Beach, New York, which I'm doing tonight. And Thursday night, I'm actually competing in the 2023 Long Island Laugh Off. I believe they started with about 120 people. Thursday night is the finals, and I'm one of them. So who knows? I could be named Long Island's funniest new comedian on Thursday.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
Well, it's very great deal that I made it to the finals. I'm very excited because there were some very funny people in it. And we'll see what happens. I'm committed to having a great time and giving the gift of laughter to the audience. If I win, it'll be a real bonus.
That's amazing.
But there is something about comedy and sales. You're always selling the joke. You're on a stage naked. I mean, there's nothing nakeder that I can imagine than being on a comedy stage, because you're telling a joke and the audience gives you feedback immediately. And you know really quickly they either like the joke or they don't like the joke. And something interesting about stand-up is you learn the relativity of time. When you tell a joke and nothing happens, time stretches out. When people are laughing, it goes really, really fast. It's like you can't get enough of that. In fact, tomorrow night, I'm actually doing what's called a speak talk. It's like a TED talk, except instead of having like 10 different speakers talking on different subjects, everybody's talking on the same subject tomorrow night. It's on laughter.
Oh, interesting.
It's actually a talk on laughter. It's in Farmingdale on Long Island. But yeah, it's all about being generous to the audience and giving the gift of laughter. And that was a real game changer for me, by the way. When I started, my goal was to go on stage and get laughs. You know, I want people to laugh because I feel good when they laugh at my jokes. It feels great. It's actually one of the greatest. It's orgasmic, literally. Well, not literally, but almost.
I gotta go to one of these shows.
I'm having mental orgasms. But a comedian friend of mine, 2 months after I started, I was talking to him. I said, "Oh man, I love doing stand-up and I love getting laughs." And he said, instead of going on stage to get laughs, go on stage to give laughs. And at the moment that he said it, I was like, yeah, that sounds good. And I kind of blew him off. But later that day I was driving. I think I was driving into New York City. And his words hit me again, so much so that I had to pull over. And I said, giving laughs instead of getting laughs. Brilliant. And my comedy actually changed that day. Now when I get on stage in 6 o'clock, in 2 hours, my goal is not to selfishly get laughs. It's to give people the gift of laughter. And I'll share this with you, which you might appreciate. This friend of mine, his name is Greg Kettner. He happened to meet Robin Williams at a comedy club. And Robin had just done a 2.5-hour set. He had seen Greg do his set. And he gave Greg some advice. And it was, Greg, keep doing what you're doing. Keep making people laugh, because you never know how you'll affect somebody's life when you give them the gift of laughter.
I love that. That's beautiful. Really beautiful. I want a twofold question really quickly here. Who is somebody that you look up to in the comedy world and somebody that you look up to in the sales world?
I'll give you the sales world first. My mentor is a gentleman named Steve Bookbinder. We worked at the same company. I went to work for a sales training company, and he happened to be the lead trainer there. And he kind of took me under his wing. I really connected with him. And boy, oh boy, he's a great salesperson, an amazing sales trainer. I'm convinced that every word that comes out of my mouth when I'm training salespeople is really his words. He's seen me train, and he says it's not, but I believe it. He's just an amazing. He's also, by the way, one of the funniest human beings I personally know. He actually did professional stand-up for 6 years. So just fantastic. In the comedy world, I mean, there are so many that I adore. There's a lot of local comedians here. The headliner in my show tonight, a guy named Rich Walker, so funny. Actually, everybody in tonight's lineup is really funny. If you're talking professional comedians, I mean, the list is really endless. I'm old enough that I remember watching people like George Carlin and Richard Pryor, and really even older Alan King and people like that, and Phyllis Diller. Today, I love Anthony Jeselnik. If you haven't seen him, look him up on Netflix. He's got a couple of specials that are so funny. He's a brilliant writer, and he's great. I mean, his delivery is incredible. His timing is perfect. And you never, ever see the joke coming. There's not a joke that he does where you'll go, oh, I know what he's going to say. He shocks you every single time. His humor is very, very dark. One of my favorite bits is when he talks about how fun it is to drop a baby.
Oh, my God.
John Mulaney is great. Jim Jeffries is great. Jimmy Carr. I mean, there's so many that I love. What's his name? Oh God, I should forget. Ricky Gervais. His special Humanity, which is on Netflix.
Yeah.
Maybe the best hour of comedy I've ever seen.
He's a riot.
I just want to get up and do that routine.
Yeah.
Which, of course I can't, but every time I watch, I'm like, oh, I just want to be that. So good.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, there's a lot of people in comedy that I think are incredible. And it's especially I think in the last few years as we've really been through a lot as humans, as people, I think humor is absolutely the way to go to help keep us grounded and to, lift our spirits a little bit as well.
That's actually the essence of my talk tomorrow night, that, laughter is a great relief because we live in a world with, the pandemic and war and economy and climate change and fires and don't even get me started on politics. That tomorrow night I'm going to be saying these words that one of the best ways to relieve the stress of life is by laughing regularly. Personally, I smoke weed and drink tequila, but laughter is really good too.
Listen, whatever way you decide to go, it's all effective strategies that we give you guys here on the show. Before we get to your final words, Jeff, I have your website, which is jgsalespro.com, scrolling at the bottom. Can you let everybody know what they can find there when they go visit you?
Well, they'll find a video of me welcoming you, which was probably about 15 years old. And so I look a heck of a lot younger. I have a lot less forehead and more hair. You'll find access to what kind of programs I offer. I just came out 2 weeks ago, literally, with online sales training programs that people can invest in themselves, do it at their own speed. Their video modules and a workbook. So that's on there too. There's previous interviews from my podcast. They're on there too. All kinds of cool stuff.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Final words. We have a lot of people that are brand spanking new in business or are just thinking about starting their business. Do you have any, what would be the number one piece of sales advice you would give them? Biggest thing?
So obviously, excuse me, because I've said it a bunch of times, prospecting consistently and effectively, but there is one piece of advice that I consider to be the most important piece of information that I give salespeople. And that is, never leave a meeting or a phone call without setting up the next meeting or phone call right then and there. I call that the best next action step philosophy. The way that most salespeople end a meeting sounds like this. So this has been a great meeting. I'm going to go back to my office, think about everything we talked about. I'll put together a proposal for you. As soon as I've got it written, I'll give you a call. I'll come back and share the information. And then you'll have everything you need to know in order to make an intelligent decision whenever you're ready. How does that sound to you? And everybody says yes to that. Because all they agreed to was it's okay if you go back, write a proposal, and you call them. They didn't say they take the call. They didn't say if you got them on the phone, they'd give you another appointment. They just said, go do a bunch of work and try to call me. But a better way is, this has been a great meeting. I think I should go back to my office, think about everything we talked about, put together an outline of ideas, and I'd like to come back and share that outline of ideas with you next Tuesday at 3. When somebody agrees to that, they've told you something. And what they've told you is they're interested. And I want to work with interested prospects. So always get a best next action step.
I love it. I love it. Great piece of advice, Jeff. This was such a fun conversation. I really appreciate you. I appreciate your humor. I appreciate all of your tips you gave us tonight. I want to encourage everyone to visit jgsalespro.com and connect with Jeff. I know he's also on LinkedIn, which he's talked about this evening as well. So you can connect with him there too. There is a clickable link in the show notes for you guys. Thank you again, Jeff, for being here this evening. It was so much fun. And I have to give you a special thank you as well, because in 2 weeks, I will be back with another incredible guest, which you actually introduced me to, and that's Craig Siegel. So really excited to have Craig on.
Hey, listeners, if you thought I was okay, come back and see Craig Siegel. He is brilliant. He's a mindset coach. I think his book just launched today.
It did.
The Reinvention Formula. Tune in. You're going to want to see Craig Siegel.
It's going to be amazing. It was good, but this was incredible too. So thank you so much again, Jeff, for being here. Thanks to all of you for watching or listening wherever you are in the world. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I want to remind you to do business your way. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.